Hi, my name is Catherine, and welcome to the Introduction to Pilates series. In these 6 videos, you will learn both pre-Pilates and Pilates exercises that will be foundational to your Pilates practice. For this first video, I do want to preface I'm going to be speaking a bit more than I will for the other 5 videos because I want to make sure you understand some pre-Pilates movements that will help you in the videos following this one. For today's video, all you need is your body and a mat, so let's get started. We are going to begin with some breathing exercises. So you can lay down on your back, and you can keep your feet flat on the mat and your knees bent. And you can place one hand on the lower belly, and you can place the other hand on your chest. And you can close your eyes if that feels good for you. We're going to begin with some diaphragmatic breathing. So I want you to take a deep inhale, sending air to the lower belly. And on the exhale, just gently release that air out. Let's try it again. Inhale here, sending air to the lower belly and the ribs, trying to keep the chest from rising. Exhale, just let it all go. And let's do this a few more times. Trying to breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. And one more. Good. This is something that you can do throughout the day when you're stressed. I like to do it before I start my Pilates practice, just something to really set the tone for the workout and help with any stress that I might be feeling throughout or from the day. All right, so we are going to now move into intercostal breathing or lateral breathing. So the intercostals are these muscles in between the rib cage. And in Pilates, this is the type of breath that you want to try to aim for throughout your workout, unless it's specified to do diaphragmatic breath. So let's practice it. So this time, place your thumbs on the front of the rib cage and your fingers in the back. And we want to think about sending air to the backs and the sides of the ribs while keeping the abdominals active, okay? So let's inhale, sending air to the backs and the sides, the ribs, and then exhale through the mouth, knit everything together, okay? So inhale, expanding laterally and to the back. Exhale, pulling everything in. Let's try this a few more times. And I want you to think about keeping the abs active through both inhalation and exhalation. Let's try it one more time. Inhale. And then exhale. Knit everything together. Good. All right. So we are going to move on now to pelvic tilts. So in Pilates, the pelvis is referenced a lot. And you want to try to aim for a neutral pelvis as much as possible. In a neutral pelvis, the front and the back of the body are balanced. They're working in harmony. Your muscles are working efficiently. You're supporting the natural curvature of your spine. However, it's very challenging to get into. And if you've never done Pilates or you've not maybe been working on your core strength, which is okay, you might not have the ability to get into that neutral pelvis. But we're going to practice it. And then I'm going to tell you what to do for some mat work. So place the heel of your hand on that bony protrusion of the pelvis and your fingertips on the pubic bone. When they are level, when they're parallel, that's a neutral pelvis. And it's going to feel foreign to you, most likely because we're not used to being in a neutral pelvis. A lot of us have a posterior tilt or an anterior tilt. So in an anterior tilt, the fingertips are lower than the heel of the hand, but that causes the lumbar spine to extend. It's not great for the lower back, and you're not getting that full abdominal activation when you're doing your Pilates exercises. And then in that posterior tilt, when the fingertips are higher than the heel of the hand, the hamstrings and the hip flexors are shortening, and it's just not ideal alignment for the body. However, sorry, I know I'm talking a lot. However, it is safer if you have not done mat exercises, if you're not sure about your core strength, to come into an imprinted spine or this more posterior tilt as you're working up to a more neutral pelvis. Okay, that was a lot of information. Let's try to find the neutral pelvis again. So heel of the hand on that bony protrusion, fingertips on the pubic bone. And you can just keep your feet flat on the mat, knees bent. Let's just try to move into some pelvic tilt so we can feel these different positions. So I want you to take an inhale, and then on the exhale, use your abdominals to imprint your spine on the mat. And see how my pubic bone is now higher than this bony protrusion of the pelvis. And then come back and try to level out the heel of the hands and the fingertips. It's really hard to get into. And you're going to notice a little bit of space between your lower back and the mat. Let's try it again. Inhale here, exhale. Use your abs. Don't recruit the hip flexors to come into this posterior tilt. And just begin to notice the differences in these two positions. Let's try it again. Inhale here. My ribs are really knitted together. I'm pulling my belly button to my spine. Exhale. Use your abs to come into that posterior or imprinted spine. And coming back now to neutral. I like to check in because it is hard to feel. Try it again. Let's just try 2 more of these pelvic tilts, okay? Use that breath and use those abdominals, tilting the pelvis up. And coming back to neutral. One more time. Inhale, exhale. Tilt the pelvis. And coming back to neutral. Good. So again, for mat work, when your legs are in tabletop or they're extended, it's recommended to come into neutral. However, it's really challenging, and it will probably be safer to come into a more imprinted spine as you are working up to strengthening those abdominals, getting into that neutral pelvis. But we're going to practice some ab moves in neutral if you feel comfortable. So try to come into that neutral pelvis. So remember, heel of the hands, fingertips are parallel. I'm pulling my abdominals in, thinking about drawing my belly button to my spine. And we're just going to work on some knee folds. So you're going to inhale at the bottom here. And then on the exhale, try to stay in neutral as that right leg comes into a tabletop position, and then come back down. Inhale, exhale, left leg comes into tabletop, and then place it back down. And just try to stabilize the pelvis here. Use that breath. Inhale at the bottom, exhale, left leg comes into tabletop, and back down. If this is too challenging in neutral, you can find more of that posterior tilt, that imprinted spine. But we do want to eventually work in a more neutral pelvis. I'm probably going to say neutral pelvis like 50 times throughout this short video. If you go to a classical Pilates studio, they will teach with that imprinted spine. Just a fun little fact there. Let's try one more time on the right side. Inhale at the bottom. Whoops, I need to check myself. Exhale, right leg comes up and back down to the mat. Pulling the abs in. Inhale here, exhale, left leg comes up and down to the mat. Good. All right, we're gonna move now into some toe taps. So for toe taps, because I'm not with you looking at your form, we are going to come more into that imprinted spine as we are learning these movements, okay? So if toe taps are too much for you, just stick with the knee folds. But if you want an additional challenge, let's bring our legs into tabletop. I am coming more into a posterior tilt, okay? But remember, that's not what we want in the future, but we're gonna work on it. So I'm coming into an imprinted spine just for safety for right now. I'm pulling my belly button to my spine. I'm trying to keep my knees above my hips. My arms are down at the sides. I'm gonna inhale, I'm gonna lower my right toes down to the mat, hinging from the hips. Exhale, bring it back to tabletop. Inhale, lowering the left toes down. Exhale, come back to tabletop. If this range of motion is too much, just reduce it. So don't come down all the way. Just try to work on that connection to the breath, working on pulling the belly button to the spine. Let's try a few of them. All right, inhale, right toes go down to the mat. Exhale, bring them back up. Inhale, left toes go down to the mat, belly button to spine. Exhale, bring them back up. Right toes down. Exhale as they come up. Left toes down. Exhale as they come up. Taking this a few more times, thinking about connecting our breath to the movement. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift. One more on each side. Inhale. Inhale, left toes go down. Exhale as they come up, taking a nice gentle rock and stretch. Good job. All right. So we are going to move on to some bridging. So two types of bridging that we are going to do here. We're going to do neutral bridging and articulating bridging. So let's start with neutral bridging. Maybe you predicted this, but we're going to try to stay in a neutral pelvis. So let's try to get into our neutral pelvis. My legs are about hips width distance apart. You might have to adjust where your feet are. So just try to get into the position that I'm in now. But again, you might have to adjust where your feet are to make sure you are supported and feeling the right muscles turn on or fire on. So I'm going to place my hands at my side here. I just found my neutral pelvis and I'm going to pull my abdominals in. I'm going to inhale here at the bottom. On the exhale, stay in the neutral pelvis, lift up, and don't come up too far. Don't arch like this. You want to pull your rib cage in and you want to stay in this nice diagonal pose, okay? Inhale here at the bottom, exhale, come down. Try to come down in neutral if you can. So this bridge is for pelvic stability. Good. Inhale at the bottom, exhale, lift up. Not too far. Inhale at the top, exhale, lower down. The other bridge we will be learning is the articulating bridge. Inhale at the bottom, exhale, lift up, which is for pelvic mobility. Really think about pulling the abdominals in. You don't want your ribs splaying. That's what I mean by that. Pull them in. Good, and relax. Okay. Let's move into articulating bridge. So starting position is the same. So trying to find neutral. You're going to inhale. On the exhale, now tuck the pelvis and begin rolling up one vertebra at a time into that bridging position, trying to keep the rib cage closed, okay? Inhale at the top, exhale, soften the upper back, the middle back, the lower back, and then come back into neutral, okay? Inhale here, exhale, tuck the pelvis, rolling up. This should feel really nice on the spine. This is probably a good time to say that if anything does not feel good, then do not do that movement. But hopefully this feels like a nice massage on the spine. Inhale at the bottom, exhale, tucking the pelvis and rolling up vertebra by vertebra. That's a tongue twister. And then coming up, rib cage closed. And then exhale, softening the upper back, middle back, and the lower back, coming back into neutral. One more time. Inhale here. Exhale, tuck the pelvis, rolling up vertebra by vertebra. I said that one pretty fast. Inhale at the top. Exhale, rolling back down. And coming back to neutral. Good. Okay, so, by the way, classically, I just got off the mat like that, but really a lot of studios will make you come up in a Pilates roll up, which we will learn about in another video. Anyway, okay, let's move into our final move for this video, which is the opposite arm leg reach, or bird dogs in Pilates. I think it's just, in yoga. I think it's just easier to say bird dogs, so let's call them bird dogs. So coming into a quadruped position. So on our hands and knees, just want to make sure my mic is on. Okay, on our hands and knees, my hands are below my shoulders, my knees are below my hips. Let's just start with a cat-cow because I want us to come into a neutral spine. So let's feel these different movements with the arch of our spine, and then try to find a nice neutral position. One more time. Good. All right. Try to find a nice neutral position with the spine. And if you're like me, I hyperextend my elbows. So I'll face the camera. So don't have your elbow like this. Turn it out. Try to have a slight bend in the elbow so you don't hyperextend here. Okay. Kind of looks scary. All right. Okay, so hands are below the shoulders. My knees are below my hips. We're just going to start with lifting and lowering our arms. So you're going to inhale. On the exhale, right arm extends up and out and then back to center. Inhale, and then exhale, left arm extends out and back to center. Try to keep your neck neutral as well. I like to look at the top of my mat, so I'm not going like this or this with my neck, okay? Just trying to stay neutral. Inhale here, exhale, right arm goes out and back to center. Inhale, and then exhale, left arm goes out and back to center. Okay, one more time on each side, and then we're going to try to do our legs. and pause in the middle. All right, reset here. If you need to, we're going to extend our right leg out. You don't want to hike your hip like this, okay? You want to try to stay neutral, so stay lifted here through the torso, and then come back to center. So don't hike the hip too much. Come back to center. Good. Inhale at the bottom. Exhale, left leg extends out. And back to center. One more time each side. Inhale here. Exhale, right leg extends out. Back to center. Inhale here. Left leg extends out. And back to center. Good. Coming back, rolling out our wrists if we need to. We're going to try to put that together now. And that'll be our last movement in this video. We'll do a little bit of stretching, but at the end of this, feel free to do any additional stretching that your body might need. All right, back into quadruped. Take a nice deep inhale. Don't sink into the chest. Lift up here, okay? But try to stay neutral. I don't know, I'll have to count back how many times I said neutral. All right, inhale here at the bottom. Exhale, right arm, left leg extend out, back to center. Inhale here, left arm, right leg extend out, and back to center. Inhale, right arm, left leg extend out, back to center. Inhale, left arm, right leg extend out, and back to center. I'm really trying to pull my belly button to my spine, thinking about staying really active through those abdominals and trying to remain as neutral as possible through my spine. These are such a great exercise. Inhale here, exhale, right arm, left leg extend out, back to center. Inhale, left arm, right leg extend out, back to center. One more on each side. And using that breath. And let's just take a child's pose. So coming back, taking a couple of deep breaths. Good. And coming up, feel free to do some additional stretches that your body might need. That concludes today's video. I hope to see you for day 2. Thanks so much. Bye.